I think it's about time I gave my thoughts on the competitive scene in gaming. There is so much to talk about on this video that I almost don't know where to start. Let's start by talking about what it means to play video games competitively. When you start to play competitively, you learn the inner workings and physics of the game you're playing. For example, in Super Smash Bros. Melee, people have exploited bugs that increase option in competitive play, such as wave dashing and DI. These bugs have been named tech skill by the people who play Melee competitively. Not only do these players learn the inner workings of the games they play, but they also have to learn what is known as the meta. The meta of a game is basically the general style and understanding of high-level play. For example, the Pokemon competitive meta has to do with knowing which moves, stats, and abilities go with the best Pokemon in the respective tier matchup, be it NU, OU, UU, and so on. The meta for each game varies drastically depending on what you're playing. For instance, the Skullgirls meta has to do with knowing the right combos and how to execute them properly, as well as knowing how to play the character you choose as best you can. Whereas in Melee, it's all about grinding out tech skill and knowing how to read the opponent to deal out the most damage. Now that we know the basics of competitive play, let's talk about tier lists. Each game usually has its own respective tier list, provided the game offers characters with different playstyles, unlike Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, where it had a lot of characters to choose from, but a majority of them played similar to one another. Tier lists can also be controversial, as there are people who believe all characters are balanced and equal. We just call these people casual players. However, with that said, a tier list isn't the end-all be-all for every character on the roster. It doesn't mean a character who isn't top tier won't see play, as oftentimes players will use a character lower on the tier list, as they enjoy that character's playstyle a lot more. For instance, I much prefer Captain Falcon over Fox or Marth in Melee, as even though I know Marth has more options when it comes to spacing and wave dashing, and Fox has a ridiculous up smash, I still favor the speed of Falcon, as well as his insanely satisfying knees. Now, some people may be turned off of trying out the competitive scene just because of how inaccessible it may seem at first. And yes, while it may not be for everyone, it's definitely worth looking into if you're interested. All it takes is a lot of practice, and to be honest, a lot of studying. I mean, if you want to play professionally, then you really do have to put your heart and soul into studying the game you want to be good at, and yes, you can make a profession out of it. Take MOBAs for example, which are games such as League of Legends, Dota 2, and Smite. These games have a super deep competitive scene, and the prizes for winning tournaments aren't too shabby either. Though these competitive players made their mark on Twitch. Like seriously, if you're even the least bit interested in watching high-level League play, just go on the front page of Twitch and pick your poison. Another thing that's unique about games like League is the fact that if you're playing competitively, you need to be on a team, which means the other players on your team have to be as serious as you and play at your skill level as well. Just having a team adds such a layer of depth to that particular competitive scene, and it can be very tricky to find a good team when you need them. I mean, I know from what I've heard other people say is that the Overwatch meta is really hard to get good at if you don't have a functioning team as well as a balanced one. Now, I personally haven't played much of Overwatch myself, so there you go, let's move on. The rise of competitive players has grown so much recently, with esports gaining a lot of popularity in recent years of gaming history. I mean, take an event as big as EVO, which just happened earlier this month. EVO is the biggest competition in the world for competitive gaming, with games like Smash, Tekken, Burning Blood, and so on. I honestly don't see the competitive scene falling anytime soon. I know I've been referencing Smash a lot, but it's kind of hard not to whenever someone mentions competitive gaming, it's the first thing that comes to mind. And personally, it's my favorite game to play competitively, even though I suck at it. And it's kinda hard to hate on Smash when Masahiro Sakurai is doing everything he can to appeal to the competitive scene for Ultimate. What with the new training mode and overall speed of the game, I feel it's gonna be a really good one. After Smash, the next best game to play competitively in my opinion is Skullgirls, because of how solid the fighting is in that game, and obviously the beautiful animations. Plus, I'm not too bad at Skullgirls, and I would like to see a lot more tournaments for it. Unfortunately, not a lot of people are adjusted to the meta of Skullgirls, but I'm sure it'll rise in popularity sooner or later. I mean, the game does appear at EVO, but it's never a main show, but who knows, only time will tell with that one. Overall, I feel there is a huge learning curve when it comes to attempting competitive play in most games, and it does take a lot of time to get good and hold your own in a tournament. But the rush of putting it all on the line and going for the gold is almost too good to pass up. So anyway, those were my thoughts on the competitive scene of gaming. Let me know if I left out some important things about this genre, and let me know what games are worth learning the meta for. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.